Joining us today is Akbayan Party List Representative Chel, one of the 12 lawmakers who voted against the proposed national budget for 2026. Good morning and welcome to the program, Kong.
Good morning, Angela. Good morning to all your listeners.
I guess, Kong, the question here is, did you expect this to happen? Because bago pong inyong botohan, meron din pong mga statement ang Malacanang through their spokesperson na hindi po pwedeng magkaroon ng zero na budget for unprogrammed funds.
Ang nakakapagtaka yung sinabi ng Malacanang. Previously, in an interview, the President, this is about early August, said that foreign projects and other similar projects should be part of the regular budget. Kaya yung nangyari, nilagay pa rin sa program funds almost over yun, foreign projects. It is something that shouldn't happen.
Right. Ang sinasabi po kasi nila and other lawmakers na importante daw po itong unprogrammed funds kasi maaaring gamitin sa mga emergency purposes.
Well, tama naman yun. The unprogrammed funds are for pang-standby yan. The question is, why will you put big ticket items like foreign assistance projects, which are, pre-planned, alam na natin lahat, alam ng gobyerno kung saan gagamitin ito. Why would you put that in the unprogrammed appropriations when it should clearly be in the regular budget?
Exactly. Alright, so do you believe that ito po talagang unprogrammed funds as also the finance watchdogs witness during the deliberation, standby pork lang ito?
That's the problem with putting huge amounts of money in unprogrammed appropriations. The temptation is very big to abuse your discretion. Kasi ang nangyayari dyan, the unprogrammed funds are left to the discretion of the DBM and the Executive Department in terms of when and how and where they will go. And that is, to us, to me, a violation of the power of the purse of Congress and also an invitation to use those funds irresponsibly.
Right. Pero of course, ang Malacanang would always say na may sufficient safeguard naman to ensure itong mga funds na to na without specific lines will not be, used for anything else. What do you have to say for that po?
Madali lang sabihin yun. But that requires now that we have to be very, very careful in monitoring how those funds will be spent. And all of this could have been avoided if it was put in the regular budget that they highlighted.
Pero kung pardon the perhaps you can enlighten us kung sakasakali po kunyari hindi pa po tapos itong botohan natin at nalagay po yung mga sinasabi natin for emergency purposes and to program funds, are you still in favor of having unprogrammed funds kahit konti lang po na amount, not as this big?
Yes, kung kaunti lang, just like before, dati naman, meron naman talagang unprogrammed funds, but this was very small amount. If that's the case, then, the dangers that we see would not be present. Unfortunately, over the last several years, the amounts of unprogrammed funds have really ballooned into hundreds of billions of pesos, and that's the big concern, really.
So what is a fair amount po sa inyo for the unprogrammed funds, if ever?
That would depend on the contingencies that the government is looking at. And by the way, we do have a separate contingent fund.
Right.
And which is meant to cover those kinds of contingencies. Meron din tayong pang-disaster at calamity. So if we're talking about leaving some funds in the unprogrammed appropriations, I would say that shouldn't be more than maybe a billion or even less than a billion pesos. I don't understand why we have put hundreds of millions unprogrammed appropriations.
Pero if ever po ba kung hindi pa po kayo nawawala ng pag-asa because if I remember it correctly, sa Senado po through their Senate President Tito Soto said na willing po siyang tanggalin po itong mga unprogrammed funds na ito.
Yes, doon na ngayon pupunta ang labanan. That's where we're going to find out how committed the Senate is to doing that. And I hope that they really push for this.
I remember kong kasi some LP members questioned the constitutionality of itong unprogrammed funds na ito last year, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us also ano po ba yung nakalagay po talaga doon sa constitution natin regarding this?
It's very clear under the Constitution, the power of the purse belongs to Congress. It cannot be delegated to the executive department, and any form of delegation would really be violative of the Constitution. At yun yung nagiging problema natin sa program fund dahil kumbaga pinauubayan ng Kongreso sa executive department kung saan at paano at kailan gagamitin itong fund.
Right. You also criticized the budget for underfunding health and PhilHealth po, no? So, what consequences might ordinary Filipinos face because of that gap?
Malaki pa rin ang gastos ng ordinaryong mamamayan pagdating sa healthcare. According to the study, it reaches about 50% of their out-of-pocket expenses. And that's really too much. That's a crime.
Right.
We have to address this problem by giving more funds to our PhilHealth agency. Hindi lang naman yun, even in terms of education, while we have increased the budget for education, hindi pa rin sapat to address the problem of classroom shortages and other issues that we have in our education crisis.
Yeah, exactly. It's good that you mentioned that po, no? Kasi you mentioned nga po, only 25,000 classrooms will be built out of a shortage of 165,000. So, ano po bang impact nito sa education crisis natin? At this point po ba, through the budget deliberation, maide-deliver po ba yung mga pangangailangan na yon dun sa binigay po na budget sa education?
Yun nga po ang problema. Parang di nakikita yung sobrang malalang problema pagdating sa basic education. We are in a crisis mode that requires that we really more money budget into education.
Alright, so tingin niyo po ba ngayon itong 2026 GAB na to still open to corruption?
Well, dahil yun nga, because the program appropriations are there and are such a big amount, it's vulnerable to misuse and to abuse. Yun yung isang bagay na kailangan natin bantayan.
Alright. So, what happens now? Antayin na lang po muna tayo ng BICAM. Ganun po.
So far, sa Kongreso, on our side, tapos na yung budget po. Now, we go to the Senate and then later the BICAM. At meron din kami panawagan na sana buksan ang BICAM. We hope that this can be done because ang daming agam-agam sa nangyari ng last budget na baka naman doon pang karoon ng insertion sa iba't ibang budget.
That's true. But were you satisfied po during the budget deliberations in the House of Representatives na ngayon daw po ay it was really open na to several advocates, financial watchdogs, civil society groups?
Well, first of all, I think that the representatives really worked so hard and did a lot for the budget. But at the same time, I hope that this can be institutionalized and that the openness to civil society groups will be complete, meaning that all the processes will be open and that they will be able to attend and have access to the documents.
Right.
Some issue in that we all face is the haste or the speed at which we have to go over all these documents. Very often we don't really have enough time, and even the civil society groups don't have fall over every line item.
Pero it's good po that they were able to pinpoint also yung sinasabi po ninyo tungkol sa unprogrammed funds. I think one of their members have spoken to the media and said that 200 plus billion nga po ay nakikita nilang standby pork lang ito.
Tama yun. At malaking tulong din ng mga civil society groups bilang mga watchdog. I really value their inputs and their observations.
Alright, with that, I think antayin na lang po natin yung iba pa pong development dito sa ating usapin ng budget. But we hope maklear po ito sa bicameral conference. But for the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. That was our Congressman Chel.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you po.